The screens flickered with green death. Ambassador Zeth Ara watched her world die from the safety of Kepler Research Station, floating in the cold void above her home planet. The green plague spread across the continents like spilled poison, eating everything alive. Her people were dying. All of them. The Devourers had come 3 months ago. Nobody knew where they came from or why they chose worlds to destroy. They just appeared, released their biological weapons, and waited. When everything was dead, they would land and consume what remained. They had done this to hundreds of worlds. Zeth Ara pressed her 6-fingered hand against the cold metal wall. Through the station's sensors, she could see the last cities of her people going dark. The Vellani had been a peaceful race for over 2,000 years. They studied stars, wrote poetry, and built beautiful gardens that reached toward the sky. They had no weapons, no armies, no way to fight back. But they were not alone in the galaxy. Surely someone would help. She walked to the communications center and activated the quantum transmitter. The signal would reach every major civilization in the galaxy within hours. The message was simple and desperate. This is Ambassador Zeth Ara of the Vellani people. Our world is dying. The Devourers have released a plague that kills all life. We have maybe 2 weeks before every living thing on our planet is dead. We beg for help. Please, someone, anyone, help us. The first response came from the Ethereal Collective. Their message glowed with soft blue light on her screen. Dear Vellani friends, we feel deep sadness for your situation. We will send thoughts of peace to guide your spirits to the next realm. May your suffering end quickly. Zeth Ara stared at the message. Thoughts of peace? Her people needed weapons, medicine, soldiers. They needed someone to fight the Devourers. The second message came from the machine Concordat. The robotic civilization had ruled 1,000 worlds for 5,000 years. Vellani distress acknowledged. The Devourer phenomenon represents a natural ecological cycle. Intervention would disrupt cosmic balance. We recommend acceptance of inevitable outcome. Natural cycle? Zeth Ara felt anger burn in her chest. These machines saw genocide as natural? More responses flooded in. The psionic hegemony offered to preserve Vellani consciousness in crystal memory banks after they died. The crystal minds suggested the Vellani should embrace transcendence through dissolution. The Trade Federation expressed sympathy, but explained that military action would hurt their business relationships. Every response was the same. Sorry, but no help. These were the great civilizations of the galaxy. They had evolved beyond war, beyond violence, beyond the need to fight. They saw themselves as enlightened beings who had moved past such primitive behavior. To them, the Devourers were just another force of nature, like storms or earthquakes. Zeth Ara collapsed into her chair. Through the station's windows, she could see her world's green oceans turning black. With death, the plague was working faster now. Maybe they had days left, not weeks. She was about to shut off the communicator when one last message arrived. The signal was weak, coming from a small system on the edge of the galaxy, a place called Sol. The sender was listed as Earth Defense Force. Earth? Zeth Ara had heard of humans before. They were a young species, maybe a few thousand years old. Most of the galaxy considered them useful, but primitive. They were good with machines and mining, but they still had armies and wars. The advanced civilizations often hired them for manual labor, but never invited them to important meetings. The message was short and written in simple words. Received your call for help, we are coming. Send us the exact location of the Devourers and any information about their ships. Help is on the way. Zeth Ara read it 3 times. No philosophy about natural cycles. No talk about accepting death. Just a simple promise. We are coming. She quickly sent back everything the station's sensors had recorded about the Devourers. Their ship designs, their movement patterns, the way their weapons worked. Within an hour, she received another message from Earth. Information received. Our fleet will arrive in 6 days. Keep your people alive until then. We will handle the rest. 6 days. Zethara looked at her dying world. The green plague had covered half the planet now. The Devourer ships hung in orbit like hungry vultures, waiting for everything to die before they landed to feed. She sent emergency broadcasts to the few Villani cities still fighting the plague. Hold on. Help is coming from Earth. In 6 days. The responses were mixed. Some laughed bitterly. Earth? The primitive humans? What could they do that the great powers of the galaxy could not? But others remembered the old stories. Humans were different from other species. They still fought wars among themselves. They built weapons instead of art. They chose conflict over peace. The advanced civilizations looked down on them for this. Maybe, Zethara thought, being primitive was exactly what they needed. She spent the next 6 days watching her world die and watching space for any sign of ships from Earth. The ethereal collective sent more messages about peaceful acceptance. The machine Concordat calculated the exact time when all life on the planet would end. The other civilizations sent poetry and prayers. Earth sent nothing more. Just silence. On the 6th day, Zethara was almost ready to give up hope. The plague had covered 90% of the planet. The last cities were going dark. The Devourer ships were moving closer, preparing to land and feast. Then the sensors screamed. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Not 1 or 2 ships, but dozens. They moved in perfect formation, like a pack of metal wolves. These were not the beautiful, graceful ships of the advanced civilizations. These were ugly, angular things, covered in weapons and armor. The lead ship sent a message on all frequencies. The voice was calm, but carried the promise of violence. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Terran Defense Force. Devourer ships, you will withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences. The Devourer response was predictable. They had destroyed 1,000 worlds. They feared no one. Zethara watched the human fleet spread out like hunters surrounding prey. For the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching the holographic display show the dying Villani world. The images came from their long-range sensors, green poison spreading across continents, cities going dark, millions of innocent people dying, while the galaxy's great powers sent prayers. Status report, she ordered. Commander Williams stepped forward. The Galactic Council responded to our request for joint action 30 minutes ago. They declined to participate. The ethereal collective called our plan disappointingly primitive. The machine Concordat said military intervention would disrupt cosmic harmony. Chen nodded grimly. She had expected this. For 50 years, humanity had been trying to join the Galactic Council. Earth's diplomats attended meetings, offered trade agreements, and shared their technology. The response was always the same polite dismissal. Humans are useful, they said. Good engineers, hard workers, but not ready for serious galactic politics. The truth was simpler. Humanity still had armies. They built warships instead of art galleries. While other species had evolved beyond violence, humans still trained soldiers and fought wars. This made them primitives in the eyes of the galaxy's advanced civilizations. Chen had served in the Terran Defense Force for 30 years. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt, rebels on Mars, and alien raiders in the outer systems. She knew what the galaxy thought of Earth's military. They saw it as an embarrassing reminder of their own violent past. Today, she would show them why keeping a military was not embarrassing, It was necessary. Fleet status? She asked. All ships ready for immediate deployment, Williams replied. 12 heavy cruisers, 40 destroyers, and the Ragnarok. The Ragnarok was Earth's newest and largest warship. 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, and carrying 40,000 Marines. The other species had laughed when they first saw its design. So crude, they said. So violent-looking. They were right. It looked violent, because it was built for violence. Marine General Rivera is aboard the Ragnarok with the Death's Head Brigade, Williams continued. They're ready for ground operations if needed. General Marcus Rivera was known throughout the Defense Force as Ghost because he appeared where enemies least expected him. His Marines were volunteers from every nation on Earth, united by their willingness to die protecting others. The galaxy's civilizations found human military culture disturbing, but Chen was proud of soldiers like Rivera. Sir, a communications officer called out. We're receiving requests for comment from galactic news networks. Chen looked at the list of messages. The headlines were predictable. Primitive humans plan military response to philosophical crisis. Earth's crude solution to natural phenomenon. Will human violence make devourer situation worse? To the galaxy's media, this was not genocide. It was a natural occurrence that required evolved thinking to understand. Military action was seen as proof that humans were still barbarians. Ignore them, Chen said. Prep the fleet for jump to hyperspace. She activated the command link to address all ship captains simultaneously. 44 faces appeared on her screen, representing the best officers Earth had to offer. They came from every continent, every culture. But they all shared the same grim determination. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know why we're here. The Vellani people are facing extinction. The Devourers have poisoned their world and will consume everything within days. The galaxy's great civilizations have decided this is a natural event that should not be stopped. She paused, looking at each face on the screen. We disagree. Earth may be primitive by galactic standards, but we remember something the evolved species have forgotten. When innocent people are dying, you don't debate philosophy. You act. Captain Morrison of the heavy cruiser Yamato spoke first. Admiral, what are our rules of engagement? Simple. Chen replied. Protect the Vellani people. Stop the Devourers. Use whatever force is necessary. Ma'am. Captain Santos, of the destroyer, Wellington asked. What about galactic law? We're not authorized to operate in the Vega system. Chen smiled coldly. Captain, show me the galactic law that says genocide is legal. Show me the rule that says we must stand by and watch millions die. Until someone does, I consider our mission authorized by basic human decency. The captains nodded. These were people who had signed up to protect others, not to follow politics. General Rivera, Chen addressed the Marine commander. Your thoughts on ground operations? Rivera's scarred face was calm. The Vellani cities still fighting the plague will need medical support and defense. My Marines are ready for both. We've loaded biohazard equipment and experimental anti-plague drugs. If the Devourers want those people, they'll have to go through us. Chen felt pride swell in her chest. This was why humanity was different. Other species talked about the value of life. Humans were willing to die for it. Fleet will jump in 15 minutes, she announced. Remember, the galaxy considers us too primitive for their council chambers. Today we show them that primitives are exactly what this situation needs. As the captain signed off, Chen walked to the observation deck. Earth hung below, blue and green and beautiful. News reports said the planet's population was following the mission with great interest. Humans from every nation were united in their anger at the galaxy's inaction. Commander Williams joined her. "Admiral, the other species have technology we don't. Advanced shields, energy weapons, ships that can repair themselves. What if we're walking into a trap?" Chen watched a transport ship launch from Earth's surface, carrying medical supplies and food for Villani refugees. "Commander, they have better technology because they've had thousands of years to develop it. But technology isn't everything. The Devourers have destroyed 1,000 worlds, and none of those advanced civilizations could stop them. Maybe what this situation needs isn't better technology. Maybe it needs something the evolved species gave up long ago." "What's that, sir?" "The willingness to be monsters, so that good people can sleep safely." The fleet launched 30 minutes later. 44 warships carrying humanity's finest soldiers, sailors, and marines. The galactic news networks followed their progress, interviewing experts who explained why human tactics would fail against the Devourers. "Humans still think like predators," one ethereal philosopher explained. "They see every problem as something to be killed. This primitive thinking will only make the situation worse." Admiral Chen didn't watch the news reports. She spent the 3-day journey to Vega studying intelligence reports about Devourer tactics and weaknesses. Her staff worked around the clock, planning the assault. When they dropped out of hyperspace above the dying Villani world, Chen looked at the enemy ships waiting in orbit. Dozens of biomechanical vessels, grown from the bones of extinct species, feeding off the planet's death. "All ships, battle stations," she ordered. "Let's show these monsters what primitives can do." The Devourer hive mind felt surprise for the first time in centuries. The primitive species from the small blue world had actually come. Their ships hung in space, above the dying planet, like metal scavengers, angular and crude compared to the elegant bioships of more advanced races. Through the collective consciousness, the Devourers shared amusement. These humans were known throughout the galaxy as useful laborers, nothing more. They built things and fixed machines for their betters. What could such creatures do against a force that had consumed 1,000 worlds? Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Ragnarok, watching the enemy formation. 47 Devourer bioships, each one grown from the corpses of extinct species. They pulsed with sickly light, their hulls covered in what looked like exposed organs and bone structures. "Disgusting," muttered Commander Williams. "Target acquisition complete," reported the weapons officer. "All ships have firing solutions." Chen activated the fleet-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Chen to all Devourer vessels. You have invaded Villani space and committed genocide against an innocent people. Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences." The response came not as words but as images forced directly into their minds. A common Devourer tactic. Visions of Earth burning, human cities consumed by green plague, humanity joining the 1,000 extinct races in death. Several crew members staggered from the mental assault. Chen herself felt the alien thoughts trying to claw into her brain, but her anger burned them away. "I'll take that as a no," she said calmly. "All ships, open fire." What happened next shocked every observer in the galaxy. The human ships didn't use energy weapons or elegant plasma cannons like other civilizations. They fired chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. Kinetic slugs that punched through Devourer biohulls like paper. Nuclear torpedoes that detonated in brilliant white flashes. Railguns that sent tungsten rods screaming across space. The Devourers had never faced weapons like these. Their bio-armor could absorb energy weapons, and their regenerative hulls could heal from plasma damage. But solid projectiles moving at thousands of kilometers per second simply tore them apart. 3 Devourer ships died in the first volley. "Direct hit on target Alpha 7, called the tactical officer. "Their hull is venting atmosphere and biological fluids. Target Alpha 12 is trying to regenerate," reported another station. "Hull breach is closing." "Hit it again," Chen ordered. Keep hitting it until it stops moving. The human fleet spread out, using tactics developed in wars against their own kind. They didn't fight in neat formations like other species. They moved like a pack of wolves, surrounding individual targets and tearing them apart before moving to the next. But the real shock came when the boarding pods launched. General Rivera watched the tactical display from the Marine Command Center. While the fleet engaged the main Devourer force, 12 of their bioships had broken off and were diving toward the planet's surface, hoping to begin the feeding process early. Not today, Rivera muttered. Launch boarding pods. Target those ships heading for the surface. Across the fleet, armored pods shot out of launch tubes. Each one carried 20 Marines in full combat gear. The pods were designed to punch through enemy hulls and deliver soldiers directly into hostile ships. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Other species fought at long range with energy weapons and shields. Boarding actions were considered impossibly primitive and dangerous. But Rivera's Marines had trained for exactly this kind of combat. The first pod smashed into a Devourer bioship, drilling through the living hull with spinning metal teeth. The Marines inside felt the impact, checked their weapons, and prepared to enter hell. Sergeant Maria Santos was first through the breach. She stepped into a corridor that looked like the inside of some massive creature. The walls pulsed with alien life, covered in veins and strange growths. The air was thick with toxic gases that her suit's filters struggled to process. Ugly, she reported over the comm. Really, really ugly. Her squad moved forward, plasma rifles ready. The ship's immune system activated, sending creatures that looked like walking nightmares to deal with the intruders. They had too many teeth, moved on legs like spider limbs, and screamed in frequencies that hurt human ears. The Marines opened fire. Plasma bolts lit up the organic corridor, burning through alien flesh and chitin. The defenders were fast and deadly, but they had never faced enemies who fought with such controlled fury. The humans moved like they were born for this, using cover, coordinating their fire, never retreating. Advancing to the control center, Santos reported. Resistance is heavy but manageable. Similar scenes played out across 12 different Devourer ships. Human Marines fighting through living nightmares, destroying biomechanical systems with explosives and plasma fire. They didn't just disable the ships, they killed them from the inside. Ambassador Zethara watched the battle from Kepler Station, her 6 eyes wide with amazement and horror. The humans fought like nothing she had ever seen. They didn't just destroy their enemies. They seemed to take it personally. Are all human warriors like this? She asked the station's AI. Unknown, the AI replied. This is the first time humans have engaged in major fleet combat. However, historical records suggest this behavior is typical for their species when protecting others. On the planet's surface, human drop pods began falling like metal rain. General Rivera had decided that destroying the ships wasn't enough. The Devourers had plague production facilities on the ground that needed to be eliminated. The Marines who hit the surface found themselves in an alien hell. The green plague had transformed the landscape into something from a nightmare. Trees made of bone reached toward the toxic sky. Rivers of acid flowed through what had once been beautiful Villani cities. The air itself was poisonous. But the Marines pushed forward anyway. They set up mobile hospitals for dying Villani civilians, distributed experimental anti-plague drugs, and began the systematic destruction of every Devourer installation they could find. Captain Rodriguez led Alpha Company through what had once been the Villani capital. His Marines moved from building to building, clearing out Devourer spawn and rescuing survivors. They worked with grim efficiency, like soldiers who had done this before. Sir, called Corporal Johnson, we've got 30 Villani civilians trapped in the cultural center. The building is surrounded by hostiles. Rodriguez checked his ammunition count. How many hostiles? Looks like 100 plus, sir. Mixed types, some bipedal, some flyers, some that look like living tanks. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Perfect. Team leaders, converge on the cultural center. Time to show these things how Marines solve math problems. The rescue operation became a legend among human forces. 30 Marines against over 100 alien monsters, fighting through the ruins of an alien city to save people they had never met. They used every weapon in their arsenal: plasma rifles, rocket launchers, combat knives, and raw human stubbornness. When the smoke cleared, all 30 Vellani civilians were alive. The Marines had lost 3 of their own but had eliminated every hostile in a 6-block radius. Back in space, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display show the end of the Devourer fleet. 47 bioships, reduced to drifting wreckage. The survivors were fleeing into hyperspace, their collective mind filled with something they had never experienced before: fear. "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. News networks, government officials, military observers. Everyone wants to know what just happened here." Chen looked at the dying world below, where her Marines were saving lives and destroying plague factories. For the first time in months, Green was being pushed back by human determination. "Tell them," she said simply, "that Earth sent its best." 3 weeks after the battle, Ambassador Zeth Ara stood in what had once been her people's capital city. The Green Plague was gone, burned away by human chemical weapons, and replaced with something miraculous: life returning. Human engineers worked alongside Vellani survivors, rebuilding water treatment plants and air purifiers. Marine medics distributed medicine that actually worked against the alien toxins. Children who had been dying just days before now ran through streets that humans had made safe again. But it was more than just the military victory that amazed her. It was how the humans acted after winning. "Ambassador," called Dr. Jennifer Park, the human medical officer in charge of plague recovery efforts. "We need to talk about the long-term treatment program." Zeth Ara joined the doctor in what had been converted into a field hospital. Hundreds of Vellani patients lay on human medical beds, hooked to human machines that monitored their recovery. Human doctors and nurses worked around the clock, treating people they had never met before. "The plague did more damage than we initially thought, Doctor," Park explained, pulling up holographic displays of cellular damage. "It didn't just kill, it rewrote genetic structures. Your people will need ongoing treatment for at least 5 years. 5 years?" Zeth Ara felt her hopes sink. "We cannot pay for such treatment. Our economy, our government, everything was destroyed." Dr. Park looked confused. "Pay? Ambassador, we're not charging you for medical care. The Terran Medical Corps is here as long as you need us." Zeth Ara stared at the human doctor. In galactic society, medical treatment was a business transaction. Even the advanced civilizations charged for their services, though they often accepted payment in rare minerals or cultural artifacts. "I don't understand," Zeth Ara said. "Why would you provide free medical care to aliens?" "Because you're sick and we can help," Dr. Park replied, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "That's what doctors do." This was the human's true nature, Zeth Ara realized. The galaxy saw them as violent primitives because they built weapons and trained soldiers. But those same humans were now working 18-hour days to save Vellani children they had never met. She walked through the city, watching human Marines distribute food supplies and help rebuild homes. These were the same soldiers who had torn through Devourer bioships like apex predators. Now they were teaching Vellani children how to play human games and helping elderly Vellani plant new gardens. The galaxy was watching too. On her personal communicator, Zeth Ara received dozens of messages from news networks across known space. The Battle of Vega had become the most analyzed military engagement in galactic history. Every species wanted to understand how primitive humans had defeated an enemy that had destroyed 1,000 worlds. The ethereal collective's military philosophers were particularly confused. "Human battle tactics show no elegance or higher thinking," one expert explained. "They simply applied overwhelming violence until their enemies died. It's disturbing in its simplicity. The machine Concordat ran probability calculations on human combat effectiveness. Human military doctrine appears optimized for destruction rather than strategic gain, their report concluded. This suggests a dangerous lack of evolved thinking. But other voices were beginning to speak up. On the trade world of Nexus Prime, a Zephyrian merchant named Keltar was being interviewed by Galactic media. His cargo ships had been attacked by pirates 3 times in the past year. Each time, he had appealed to the Galactic Patrol for help. Each time, they had sent polite regrets and suggestions to hire private security. Maybe, Keltar said during the interview. We've been thinking about this wrong. The humans didn't spend weeks debating whether helping the Villani was philosophically correct. They just helped. Sometimes, that's what the galaxy needs. Similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. Species that had suffered pirate raids, slaver attacks, or territorial invasions were looking at the human response with new interest. The great civilizations offered sympathy and advice. Earth had sent warships and soldiers. General Rivera received the message while supervising the cleanup of a devourer breeding facility. The underground complex had been transformed into a nightmare of organic machinery designed to produce plague organisms. His Marines were systematically destroying every trace of it with plasma torches and chemical explosives. "Sir," called Lieutenant Chen, handing him a communication pad. "Message from Earth Command. Priority Alpha." Rivera read the encrypted message and whistled softly. "Sergeant Santos, get over here." Santos jogged over, her armor still smoking from the plasma torch work. "Yes, sir? How would you feel about an extended deployment? Looks like we're getting more requests for help." He showed her the message. 12 different star systems had formally requested human military assistance. Pirates in the Outer Rim. Slavers attacking refugee convoys. Even reports of more devourer activity in distant sectors. The galaxy's starting to realize something. Rivera continued. When you need philosophers, you call the ethereal collective. When you need technology, you call the machine Concordat. But when you need someone to fight monsters, you call Earth. Santos grinned. About time they figured that out, sir. When do we start? Before Rivera could answer, his communicator chimed with another priority message. This one was from Admiral Chen, aboard the Ragnarok in orbit. "General, you need to see this. We're receiving diplomatic communications from the Galactic Council." Rivera frowned. The Council had ignored Earth's diplomatic requests for 50 years. What did they want now? He took a transport shuttle up to the Ragnarok, where Admiral Chen was waiting in the briefing room with a holographic display showing the council chambers on the capital world of Harmony. "Play it," Rivera said. The image resolved into Counselor Threndar of the Ethereal Collective, the current council speaker. The being looked like a tall, graceful humanoid, made of flowing energy, beautiful and alien. "Greetings to the human leadership," the counselor began in the musical tones typical of his species. "The council has observed your recent military actions in the Vega system with great interest." Chen and Rivera exchanged glances. Interest was not the word they would have used to describe the council's previous reactions to human military capabilities. "While your methods were primitive, by our standards, we cannot deny their effectiveness. The devourer threat has plagued the galaxy for centuries. That you were able to neutralize it in mere days is noteworthy." The counselor paused, seeming to struggle with the next words. "The council wishes to discuss the possibility of Earth taking on certain responsibilities within galactic society. There are situations that may require your particular talents." Jun. Anyone. Dime. Rivera laughed. "Particular talents. Is that what we're calling it now?" "They're scared," Chen realized. "For centuries, they've dealt with threats by talking, negotiating, or just accepting losses. But the devourers couldn't be negotiated with. And now, there are rumors of other threats out there. Pirates, slavers, maybe worse things. The council is realizing that sometimes you need people willing to fight. Another message arrived, this one from Ambassador Zeth-Ara on the planet's surface. Admiral Chen, General Rivera, I need to speak with both of you urgently. My people have been contacted by representatives of 17 different species. They all want the same thing. Ah, which is? Chen asked. Protection. Zeth-Ara replied. They want to know if humans would be willing to defend them the way you defended us. They're calling it the Terran Protection Service. Rivera walked to the window, looking down at the planet where his Marines were still working to save lives and rebuild civilization. In the distance, he could see the lights of New Vega City, the first settlement built with combined human-Villani cooperation. Admiral, he said quietly, I think we just became something the galaxy never expected. What's that? The good guys with the biggest guns. 6 months later, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Council. The Great Chamber on Harmony had been designed to inspire awe. Crystalline walls that reached toward infinity, floating platforms for each species' representatives, and the soft glow of 1,000 different energy fields. She was not impressed. Behind her, through the chamber's massive windows, the Ragnarok hung in space. The human dreadnought had been upgraded after the Battle of Vega, its hull now bearing the scars of a dozen more conflicts. It was no longer alone. The entire Third Fleet surrounded the capital world. 44 warships that had become the galaxy's most feared and respected military force. The Council recognizes Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force, announced Councillor Threndar. The ethereal being's voice carried barely concealed nervousness. Chen stepped forward, her uniform crisp and her expression hard. 6 months ago, Earth's diplomats had begged for a chance to address this assembly. Today, she was here because the Council needed her. Honorable councillors, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. 6 months ago, the Villani people cried for help. This council sent prayers and philosophy. Earth sent soldiers. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some species shifted uncomfortably on their platforms. Since then, Chen continued, 17 species have requested human military protection. We have destroyed 3 pirate fleets, broken up 2 slavery operations, and eliminated devourer colonies in 4 different systems. We did this not because we were asked politely, but because people were dying. She paused, looking around the chamber at beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Today, I stand before you not as a petitioner seeking membership, but as the representative of humanity's new role in galactic affairs. Whether this council recognizes it or not, Earth has become the protector of those who cannot protect themselves. Councillor Zarthek of the Machine Concordate spoke first. The robotic being's voice was cold and precise. Admiral Chen, human military actions have disrupted established trade routes and political agreements. The Hegemony Corporation has filed formal complaints about your interference with their labor acquisition programs. Chen smiled grimly. Labor acquisition programs. The machine's polite term for slavery. Counselor, if by disruption you mean we freed 12,000 beings from forced labor camps and arrested the corporation's executives, then yes, we disrupted them. We will continue to disrupt any operation that treats sentient beings as property. The humans show dangerous disregard for galactic law, declared Councillor Veltar of the Psionic Hegemony. They act without proper authorization, without following diplomatic protocols. Show me the law that says genocide is legal, Chen replied. Show me the protocol for watching children die while you debate philosophy. Until you do, I consider human actions authorized by basic decency. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species applauded Chen's words, while others demanded she be censured for insubordination. But one voice cut through the noise. The human speaks truth. All eyes turned to Ambassador Zethara, who now represented not just the Villani, but the coalition of protected worlds. DSSF, 17 species that had placed themselves under human military protection. 6 months ago, my people were dying. Zethara continued, standing on her platform with quiet dignity. This council offered us beautiful words about accepting our fate. The humans offered us something better. Life. She activated a holographic display showing the rebuilt Villani homeworld. Cities bustled with activity. Children played in parks. And the green plague was nothing but a memory. Today, Villani children learn human mathematics alongside our poetry. Our engineers work with human technicians to build better cities. Our doctors share knowledge with human medics to develop new treatments. This is what cooperation looks like. Not empty debates about philosophical purity, but people from different worlds working together to build something better. More species began to speak up. The Zephyrian Trade Confederation thanked humans for clearing pirate-infested shipping lanes. The refugee worlds praised human medical assistance. Even some previously neutral species admitted that human actions had made their borders safer. But the great powers remained skeptical. Human methods remain primitive, insisted Counselor Threndar. Violence should be the last resort of civilized beings, not the first. Chen walked to the center of the chamber, her boots clicking on the polished floor. Counselor, with respect, violence was never our first choice. It was our only choice after everyone else chose to do nothing. The devourers couldn't be negotiated with. Pirates don't respond to strongly worded letters. Slavers don't release their victims because you ask nicely. She gestured toward the window, where her fleet waited in perfect formation. You call us primitive because we build warships and train soldiers. You say we lack sophistication because we choose action over endless debate. But I ask you this. Which is more primitive? Building the tools to protect innocent life, or watching that life be destroyed because fighting back is beneath your evolved sensibilities? The chamber fell silent. The galaxy has changed, Chen continued. New threats are emerging from the dark spaces between stars. The devourers were just the beginning. Our long-range scouts report movement in the void, something ancient and hungry stirring in the galactic rim. When that threat comes, and it will come, what will you do? Send it a politely worded request to leave us alone? She turned slowly, making eye contact with representatives of each major species. Humanity doesn't seek to rule the galaxy. We don't want to conquer anyone or impose our will on others. We want to protect the peaceful civilizations that built this council, that created art and music and philosophy while we were still fighting with sticks and stones. That's what soldiers do. We keep the monsters at bay, so good people can sleep safely. General Rivera's voice crackled through her communicator. Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up something at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Heading this way. Chen activated her wrist display, showing the tactical readout to the council. Dozens of unidentified ships were dropping out of hyperspace, moving in attack formation toward Harmony. Unknown vessels. This is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Identify yourselves immediately. The response came as a hissing growl in an ancient language that the translation computers struggled to process. Devourer. Secondary. Swarm. Revenge. Consume. All. 2. 2. 2. 2. The chamber erupted in panic. These were not the same devourers they had faced at Vega, but something worse. A revenge fleet carrying weapons designed specifically to kill humans. All council representatives to emergency shelters immediately, Chen ordered, taking command with calm authority. Third Fleet. Battle stations. Intercept formation Gamma. 3. 1. But before the human ships could move, something unexpected happened. Ships began dropping out of hyperspace all around the capital world. Not enemy vessels, but the fleets of the protected worlds. Vellani ships with human weapon systems. Zephyrian trade vessels converted to carry missile batteries. Even some species that had never built warships before had armed themselves and come to fight. "Admiral," called Captain Morrison from the Yamato. "I count 47 friendly vessels moving to support us. The coalition forces are requesting battle assignments." Chen felt tears in her eyes as she realized what was happening. The species humanity had protected were now protecting the council that had once rejected them all. "All coalition forces, this is Admiral Chen. Form up with the Third Fleet. Today we show the galaxy what unity looks like." The battle that followed became legend. Human ships fighting alongside aliens they had saved, using combined tactics that no single species could have developed alone. The Devourer Revenge fleet was larger and better armed than anything they had faced before, but they hadn't counted on facing a unified force. When the last enemy ship was destroyed, the council chamber was silent, except for the quiet hum of life support systems. The council, Counselor Threndar said quietly, wishes to formally welcome humanity as a full member, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. Chen nodded. "We accept, with one condition. Any species that requests our protection will receive it, regardless of their political status or economic power. The strong protect the weak. That's not negotiable." "Agreed," the counselor replied. As the council session ended and representatives began filing out, Zeth Era approached Chen. "Admiral, my people have been working on something. A gift." She handed Chen a small crystal containing a holographic recording. When activated, it showed the rebuilt Vellani capital, with a massive monument in the center. The inscription was written in both Vellani script and human English. "When we cried for help, the galaxy sent silence. Earth sent beasts. We learned that sometimes the galaxy needs beasts." Chen smiled, looking out at her fleet and the coalition ships that surrounded it. Humanity had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Protectors who asked for nothing in return except the chance to keep others safe. In the distance, her long-range sensors were already picking up distress calls from the Outer Rim. Pirates attacking refugee convoys. Slavers raiding primitive worlds. And somewhere in the deep dark, ancient things stirring with malevolent intent. "General Rivera," she called on her communicator. "Yes, Admiral? Prep the fleet for extended deployment. Looks like the galaxy needs its beasts again." "Copy that, Admiral. Where are we heading?" Chen looked at the star charts, showing dozens of worlds crying for help, just as the Vellani had cried months before. "Wherever they need us most," she replied. "That's what Guardians do."